Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I'll try to give you a short talk about something that I found an incredible, powerful tool, and also a very dangerous weapon at the same time. The old famous term of disagreeing and committing. There's multiple dimensions in that is key to how to make teams move forward. And I think often as engineering leaders, we are not necessarily aware enough if we are using it as a powerful tool or unintendedly. So I often see people using disagree and commit with the best intention, but inadvertently ending up actually using it as a very dangerous weapon that will destroy the team over the long term and not actually move the organization forward in producing a product, service, or technology. So let me go through a little bit first, why is this all important? Actually, as an organization, what moves us forward is the decisions we make. What to build, how to build it, what not to build, how to grow our people, who should build something, what not to do. Our product as leaders are actually that the organization make decisions. Not that we make the decisions, but that we make sure the right people that's best enabled to it make the best decision they can at the right time to move the ball forward. There's a lot of important components of that, and often one of the things we face, and can even be our competitive advantage, is how to make a decision under uncertainty. We might need to make a decision before we, or actually anybody, knows what the right answer is. That's how we can move faster as an organization, and if we can make those decisions better, handle the inherent uncertainty in them, and also handling the changes that comes afterwards because we might not have been right, we'll be able to move faster in our product building, our technology building, our service building. So it's very key for us to make sure that we achieve those best decisions. And we do that through having a good, healthy disagreement with different point of views that can inform the decision. At the same time, we have to make it in a timely manner, so we at some point have to see if we move forward, and it's not always we can end up agreeing. And then afterwards, we need everybody fully committed to handle the good or bad that comes from those decisions. And I actually believe firmly that the quality of the disagreement is what leads to quality of the commitment. So that's easier said than done when you're in the middle of a discussion with a lot of passionate people. So I have worked with the framework over the last few years to think about it and fact-check myself about where am I in the quality of the disagreement and what quality of commitment can I expect. So if you look at it, the best disagreement is the one that ends with, we all agree. We all agree, we got the facts on the table, it's obvious what the right choice is for all of us. Whether it's right or wrong, we certainly will all stay committed because we believe that was the decision we made ourselves. The worst decision is the one where the worst disagreement is when somebody is overruled and say, that's just the way it is. Obviously, none of us try to be on that, that's just the way it is. We are all here because we as engineering leaders want to become better, and we get our teams engaged, and we all try to do that as much as possible. But it's also rarely we can get to every decision becoming we all agree. So as engineering leaders and leading of teams that we have to help make the right decision, what really important is the skill of how to operate in between these two. The second best level of disagreement is that we actually agree what we disagree about, and we also agree is subjective. We understand that none of us really have the best answer, but there's different matter of opinion, and somebody's responsible for make that decision. And we can move forward, and we already understand that we'll never know perhaps the real answer. A little bit further down the scale is we agree what we disagree about, but the people we're trying to convince think it's objective, and we think we are subjective. It's a very difficult discussion still to have, but it's still better than that's just the way it is. At least we had the discussion. And we hopefully glean something from that, their opinions about why it's subjective that can help us make a better decision. Almost as bad as that's just the way it is we disagree what we disagree about. And it's actually surprising how often I've seen a big length of a lot of discussion happens when we actually don't even talk about the same thing. As engineering leaders or leader of any team, I see it as a purpose of moving us further up towards the green side of understanding and being committed to making these decisions that we all feel is quality decisions. So you can look at it as, if we agree what we disagree about, and if we all believe is subjective, I actually believe with a good culture, you can expect commitment afterwards. Somebody is responsible, will make the call, and you'll move forward. And it actually doesn't cost you very much because the other side will agree that it's a subjective call and somebody has to make the decision. If we end in a case where we actually don't agree whether it's objective, some believe that their opinion is the right one, and the others think that it's a little bit more open-ended, it can actually be quite a big ask to ask for commitment. And I think we in that situation has to be very aware of it, and I even say, I know I'm making a big ask here. I know you believe this is objective. I don't think so. I think it's subjective, and I have a different opinion. And we have to remember that can cost us a lot of credits that we hopefully build up the rest of the time. But being very open about it, I think, is very critical. Obviously, there's nothing to disagree or commit about if you don't talk about the same thing. So that's a case where you can't expect very commitment from anybody. You cannot even improve your own decision because they're making an argument of different points than what you're talking about. So we neither get better decisions nor better commitment afterwards. So I want to talk a little bit about the questions I ask myself, the person I might be discussing this with, or the team that I'm working with, on how to get us further up the scale. So some of the questions, what is the decision we are making? I start with this question because obviously we're not going to make any progress if we're not talking about the same thing. And also because this actually can be one of those things where if we got caught up emotionally, and it can be one of the things that disarm the challenge of the discussion to say, oh, we just misunderstood each other. It's not you're right or wrong. We might just talk about two different things. It makes sure we progress on the right topic and can disarm a heated discussion a little bit. I also think it's important to actually discuss what part of the decision is we disagreeing about. Are we disagreeing that this is the right path? Or are we disagreeing is the right extent? How much we're investing in it? Or who should work on it? What is actually it is that we're disagreeing about? And getting those information out, because it might lead you to make, hopefully, a better decision, or also know what it is that you need to figure out whether it's objective or not, and where to make the call. Obviously, you then get to, is this a subjective decision? Do you think it's differently? And talk about it that way I find incredibly helpful. Do you feel it's objective, or you think it's subjective? And especially if you get people to all agree it's subjective, it's much easier to then say, can you rally up behind me? I've made this decision. And lastly, questions can mostly be answered by a certain investment in time or effort. But is that investment reasonable? Time can cost us not moving fast enough. Cost can build up. That means we are not actually build all the things we can. And it might be we don't need a 100% hit rate in making the right decisions. It might be we need an 80% hit rate, and therefore moving a little bit faster. So having that discussion help us get further up this scale. Why is then all this talk about subjectivity? First, we are solving things that hopefully makes a difference in the world in a different way, with a different approach, with a different group of people. And therefore, there's elements of things we just haven't seen before. And be honest about whether we've seen this before, or is it a different version of something? What is it that is the uncertain part of this topic? Could be that we, of course, we can go and test it, as we often do with our product, but if the uncertainty is about how large groups of people actually will react to it, it might be a very sophisticated prototype we have to build, and almost build a product before we get the answer. There can also be too many moving parts. We just heard about the challenges of a scaling organization like Slack. And there's many things happening at the same time between organization and teams and different technologies and things we know are not working, but we haven't yet invested in fixing them. So it could be things that are half in our control, but it can also be that we work with external parties or competitors who change the world. So it might be there's just too many parts, and we have to admit that it's too expensive to understand all of it. And it comes back to time and cost as we build things. And as a team, I think it's very important that you regularly talk about at which stage of the company are we right now, and what is it that's important for us? Is it quality? Is it speed? Is it a certain prioritization? Is it growth of the organization? And having those discussions so everybody's on the same page before you go into the heated moment. This is a framework I use often to talk through these questions with people. It's not something I do, of course, by every decision. Every decision a team member mine are making, or a peer, or somebody above me. But it's one I use when things get a little bit heated, and making sure fact check whether we are actually on the same page, what is we discussing, etc. But I want to leave you with one sentence that kind of sums up the key elements of this, that I actually remind myself of constantly. And people who work with me will hear me repeat it several times a week, if not daily, which is always let people know enough to disagree with you in a qualified way. Letting people know enough so they can tell you where you got things wrong, or where they believe that you got it wrong. That's what will enable you to get their data, their opinions embedded into your decisions and make better decisions. Even if you cannot agree in the end, you might have improved the decision, but you certainly have had a better quality disagreement, and therefore you can have higher expectations of commitment over time. Actually getting people to commit to something that they might not fully agree on. And if they have not participated in a quality disagreement, I think it's very difficult to expect that. So I repeat this on just about daily with myself, several times a week with my team, and everybody will hear me repeat all the time. Have we let enough people that is important for this know enough that they can disagree with us in a qualified way? I'll leave that with you as hopefully a useful approach to handling disagree and commit, and hopefully you'll find some of that useful. I'm happy if there's any questions to answer that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have time for one question, and it looks like there's been one question submitted. So thank you to Bhavin. A lot of time disagree and commit is heard as do it as I say. Yeah. How do you handle that?
Totally. And I think it's the difference is if you have had that quality disagreement, given people information enough that they feel they've been equipped to argue against you. Because often what happens is a clever person would not want to make arguments that is unfounded. So if they don't have the right information to enable them to feel like they can make a quality argument, they would not actually, that's when they're holding back themselves. And then when you say disagree and commit, it's just a way to overrule the discussion. So being very open about the information that enables people to challenge you, and then also be very open about that you want that disagreement and that why you make a call is because you believe it's subjective. Or that you believe it's subjective and here's my data to show it. So be very conscious about it is the way I find myself avoiding becoming it, do as I say, which is the dangerous weapon. That means you will get less feedback next time, less input. In the end, you're limited to your own ability to make decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry we only had time for one question, but let's give a round of applause for PAW and a fantastic session. Thank you.